Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good evening. My name is Tyler Perry, or Ty. I will be doing my presentation on cultural studies theory and the curious case of Beauty and the Beast. To go further into that, I won't just be discussing the cultural studies theory and what it is regarding society or societal conflict, but I'll actually be using the Disney's 2017 live action film Beauty and the Beast as a case study to really show like what this theory looks like in practice, and identify some of the different concepts in this event that happened in the United States, and arguably worldwide. Um, so yeah. So what is cultural studies theory? From my understanding, cultural studies theory is kind of an offshoot of Karl Marx's social conflict theory, I believe. And in this theory, Karl Marx basically stated that there is an in group and there is an out group whenever it comes to society. In the in group that he called the bourgeoisie, they held all the power. They were the ones who decided when something was in style, when something was out of style, what the status quo was, what normative behaviors were for their society and their culture. Um, the cultural studies theory it holds on to that same sentiment, but it says that the bourgeoisie aren't the only ones who have such power. It states that mass media actually control and influence what people see as normative behavior too, to the extent that in one video I was watching, they referred to mass media as being the gatekeepers of culture because they can not only lead to marginalized groups being accepted, but they can also, shift people's thinking into making them the outcast. Um, they can also continue to portray the normalized behavior that everyone sees and keep the status quo as is. So part of that is what we call hegemony, and another aspect is counter hegemony. And you can't really understand cultural social theory without really looking at these two concepts, I should say. So I wanted to spend some time and talk a little bit about each of them. So hegemony specifically. Is the dominating leadership or power or belief that a culture or society has, what is deemed as normative. Um, or it could also be the influence that is found by the dominant group. That is also a definition of it. But the best way to describe it is, say in the US, for a long time, it was deemed that only a man and a woman could get married. That would be seen as a normative ideology. Um, it's the norm, it's what most people would consider to be culturally correct or right in a way. Counter hegemony is kind of the opposite. um, Instead of perpetuating or influencing others to believe in the status quo, it actually tries to challenge and dismantle and critique it. So, for example, it would look at the example of the man and the woman only getting married and be like, why? Why can't two men or two women or whoever get married because they want to get married? So that is the main point of counter hegemony. Is it really really takes its hold in just critiquing hegemony and cultural norms in general, and really critiquing it and trying to be like, hey, just because we have been this way for 50 years doesn't mean we we need to stay this way. um but yeah, that's what those two things mean. So before I get into the movie and how this works with cultural studies theory exactly, I kind of want to give some background as to what the movie is, when the movie came out, the why I'm talking about it. So, um, Beauty and the Beast is a Disney film, and this particular adaptation came out in February 23rd, 2017. And it was the first live action remake, I believe, of Beauty and the Beast since it had came out. Because of this, there was a lot of eyes on the movie. Whether it came from like when it was going to come out, had it dropped its trailer, who was playing the lead roles. There was just there was a lot of eyes on it, especially because I think Beauty and the Beast is one of is kind of like a cult favorite. A lot of people love this movie. They grew up with this movie, so there was just a lot of talk and a lot of eyes on it. And side note for those who need a update on what Beauty and the Beast is or may not know what it is, it's a classic Disney film that's about a girl named Belle who becomes captive by a monster, aka the Beast, and she has to stay in his castle until she breaks the curse in order to escape. And at the end of the movie, Belle ends up falling in love with the Beast, and by doing so, actually breaks the curse, and he turns into a prince, and they live happily ever after. Um, Moral of the story is basically don't judge a book by its cover. That's what the whole movie is about. Um, but so what is the conflict? How did Beauty and the Beast, a Disney movie, end up in so much hot water when it first came out? So little backstory, but there is actually conflict in mass media when it comes to underrepresentation of minority groups. And in this case, I'm going to be specifically talking about the LGBTQIA plus representation in mass media, which is lacking, for lack of a better term, especially when it comes to children's media. At the time, there just weren't gay characters of any sort in children's media. Um, so when Disney announced that they were going to be doing Beauty and the Beast, they also announced and went through with having an openly gay character in the live adaptation. And this caused mass outcry. um, because Disney, which is a pop culture phenomenon, all of a sudden went against what was considered the hegemonic norm at the time of not representing such characters. So, so this outcry, it was a lot. It consisted of people being upset because they didn't want politics being brought into a child's film. Some people felt it was inappropriate to do this and to show a gay character because it was deemed too sexually deviant. Some aspects of society said that they were very uncomfortable with Disney kind of normalizing the idea that being gay is okay. And that was a concern. It even went as far as for some states, particularly Alabama, to ban the movie from being shown in theaters. And in some countries, uh, such as Malaysia, they actually asked Disney to remove the quote unquote gay scene from the film, or they were going to refuse to show it. And shockingly enough, Disney actually declined and refused to remove it. So that was a thing. So, what does this conflict tell us about cultural studies theory? So, basically, what I kind of gleaned from this is that one, Disney, being such a huge company, a huge mass media giant, had a lot of power in not only questioning the hegemonic norm or actively acting in a counter hegemony, um, but just overall they could change the norm, or they could keep it stagnant. I think that was the biggest thing that I learned was just how powerful that like mass media really is, and how people really underestimate underestimate it. um so I also found it quite interesting that people that people found the viewing of an openly gay character in a children's media so potent they felt that they had to ban it across entire countries. Um, but yeah. So the importance of media and conflict. So as I was saying, Disney is a huge pop culture icon, and it really became a staple of how crucial media is in influencing and changing opinions and beliefs in our culture and in our society, and how we should give them more credit. um, and also, I think which was interesting is that if they did go with the counter hegemonic ideals, I'm kind of curious to see how how it could influence the future and conflicts that still need to be remedied, such as the fact that isn't that a lot of representation of LGBTQI plus members in mass media. Like in a way, even though Disney created so much conflict, they really helped in that regard. So I found that very interesting. And then those are my references. And yeah, I'm really interested to possibly hear what everyone else thought about it. And if you had any questions or concerns, let me know. But thanks.